Hi, I'm Joni Patrie, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Well, today I want to talk about the November lunar eclipse. We're getting ready to go into the eclipse season, and with that, very emotional things will come about because this eclipse energy is flanking across the signs of Taurus, where we're going to have the lunar eclipse, and Scorpio. These are very intense signs. But before I continue on, I always want to remind everyone to sign up for my free newsletter where you can receive all of my predictions delivered to your email address. Go to galacticcenter.org, and while you're there, check out my new beautiful jewelry. It's all my personal designs where I have the Galactic Center mandala that I feel is so important. And I also have beautiful mandalas with the Galactic Center mandala. And if you want to make an astrological statement, here are some planetary earrings with all the planets proudly displayed along the bottom of this earring. So check that out, galacticcenter.org. So continuing on to the intensity of what is about to come about from this lunar eclipse. Now remember, eclipses are seasonal. So we have this eclipse season twice a year, 6 months apart. The solar eclipse is actually the fulcrum of it all. A solar eclipse that happens 6 months apart. There's usually a lunar eclipse 2 weeks before, or it can be 2 weeks after. And sometimes there's not even a lunar eclipse. That's why I say the solar is the potent focus. But the lunar eclipse is so emotional. It happens during a full moon. And so what are we talking about with the full moon? When you have the moon and the sun exactly opposed, and they're tied up with Rahu and Ketu. We all know there's a full moon every month, but it's when it comes together with Rahu and Ketu, which are called the North Node and the South Node, when the sun and moon and nodes come together. This represents destiny, fate, huge events happen. And I always have said, whenever a lunar eclipse falls on your birthday or a day around your birthday, look out. It is going to be a very emotional and intense year. So I say that just because I happen to notice that President Biden is born November 20th, meaning his sun is right there around 4 degrees of Scorpio. And the lunar eclipse happens on November 19th to be exact. And the sun and the moon will be at 3 degrees. Moon Taurus, sun Scorpio. So when the lunar eclipse does fall around your birthday, trust me, it is an extremely difficult and emotional year. I know every time this has happened in my life, it was monumental. As a matter of fact, just to give you an idea, it was in 2004 that a lunar eclipse fell on my birthday. And following that eclipse within that year, not to scare everyone, but both of my parents died 8 months apart within that year. So it's not always as catastrophic, but it is always a very intense and emotional year, okay? So that goes for everyone that has a birthday around November 19th, 18th, 20th, or 21. This will be, and of course it depends on what houses they fall into as to what your experiences will be. The solar eclipse is powerful too. So those that have birthdays around December 4th, 5th, or the 6th, around that time, it will be a very intense year as well. But going back to this lunar eclipse, because it is very, very important. Actually, whenever the lunar eclipse happens before the solar eclipse, it's like something will precede this big event of the eclipse. And really, it is the whole eclipse season And things within 3 to 4 months around the eclipses, that's when events can really strike and happen. Seen it. 3 to 4 months around the time of the eclipse. And did you know when planets when we have the eclipses, Rahu and Ketu, if you're looking at the true nodes of the moon, Rahu and Ketu, they actually stand still for 3 months, so they become stationary around the time of the eclipses. Then they move quite quickly after that 3-month period. They move erratically and very fast. So a lot of people tend to use the mean node. In other words, they look at the nodes, Rahu and Ketu, as moving the mean motion, which would be 1.5 degrees each month backwards in the zodiac. But let me just say, for 3 months, because they stand still in true astronomical placements, it's intense for 3 months for sure around the eclipses. So, what does it mean when the lunar eclipse happens 2 weeks before instead of 2 weeks after? It means something's going to happen that's of an emotional nature before the solar eclipse. So everything will be revealed, and then the effects will happen as a result, I believe, of what could be happening around this lunar eclipse, around November 19th. So remember, because the eclipse is on November 19th, it doesn't usually mean that things happen on that day. It just doesn't. But around this time, the triggers are there. They're going to ignite things. And I actually think by the time Mars comes together over these points in the zodiac, where this will be in the month of December as well as January, that's when the true triggering events will be happening. But let me talk about this lunar eclipse, because this eclipse happens to be where the moon is going to be 3 degrees of Taurus in the nakshatra Kritika. Kritika symbol is a sword or the knife. It means it cuts through the nonsense and gets to the core and the meat of the matter. No fooling around with this nakshatra Kritika. And most of all, this degree point is almost exact within a degree of the fixed star Algol. That is the most treacherous fixed star of the heavens. It actually rules decapitation. And what does that mean? Well, you know, not everybody's going to have their head cut off, needless to say. But it's symbolic normally, where you feel like you lose your head. People are going to be losing their head during this time. And if I could say, I'm going to do a video on this, or maybe it will come out sooner than this. But when I look at some of the political leaders in the United States, the fact that this lunar eclipse is falling on President Biden's chart, on his sun, but I happened to run across Nancy Pelosi. And she is going to be, in a rage. Why do I say this? So it means, you know, we can kind of see where everything's going in the government. But I noticed in her chart, get this, her natal Mars sits at 3 degrees of Taurus. Exactly on the lunar eclipse. So what does that mean? An emotional outbreak and pouring out of such intense anger and emotion, losing the head. It is exact. Not to mention, she has her Mars conjunct the fixed star Algol, which is, as they say, one of the most violent stars in the heavens. So we'll see where this goes. There's going to be a lot of anger, disputes, and chaos with this eclipse for the government going on in the U.S., looking ahead where these eclipses are happening. Now, I also noticed something else around this lunar eclipse, to be exact. About a day or two before, So that would take it in at around November 17th to 18th. I noticed that Mars will be opposed planet Uranus. And Mars in Libra opposed Uranus can mean sudden, unexpected events. Mars is very hostile. Uranus is very sudden and outlandish in its effects. It deals with sudden, unexpected changes, and Mars is a trigger of that. Uranus is in the nakshatra Bharani, which means breakthroughs, sudden breakthroughs, new beginnings, but definitely not of a peaceful nature. And as we see Mars as the big trigger, and Mars is in the nakshatra Swati, this is a very interesting nakshatra because it deals with communications and it is strong. Swati is ruled by Rahu. I have seen some major events happen when planets transit through Swati. It is a very event-oriented nakshatra, and it deals with Libra type qualities, which deal with justice and truth and things of that. Judgment, really. Libra's symbol is the scales of justice. But things are going to be outrageous. Things are coming to a head with this eclipse season coming up. Don't think that it's going to happen just on the day of the eclipse, but this is definitely stirring the pot and making it all surface big time. People are going to show their true colors, everyone. And that can even go, of course, in your personal life. And remember, if you have any planets that you know of in Taurus and Scorpio, you have to heed and watch what you say, watch what you do. You cannot lose your head, even though you'll want to. This is the beauty of astrology, to prevent things, to stand back, to take care. But I know that things are going to start really coming together. All the things that have been heating up in October and November, by December, January, we will see some very, very intense things come to the forefront. No more peace, hostility, anger, frustration, blow-ups. Can even be when Mars comes together with Ketu during December, January. I think it's December 15th, Mars will hit Ketu. Now, generally, things don't happen on the exact day, but around that time, and I can say it could happen around that day. There could be an attack. There are so many violent energies surfacing at this time. It is astounding. And don't forget, Scorpio, right there in the middle of Scorpio is Antares, the star of war. So this is where it all comes to a head. This is where the eclipse energy of emotion, intensity in the sign of Taurus, Scorpio, are going to have their effects. So look out. I always say during the time of the full moon, and a lunar eclipse is a full moon on steroids. It is a time when things come to light because the night sky is illuminated, but the moon is darkened. So out of the dark comes what? What was hidden, what we didn't know about. So eclipses always bring out the things we don't know about. And these are going to be mind-blowing. So get ready to wake up to the mind-blowing experiences about to happen in the next few months. Watch these eclipses take effect. So with that, I'd like to close. Remember, if you would like more information on me and you would like to study with me, join our incredible community of astrologers. Go to my university website where we are starting all new classes, new webinars. Check it out, universityofvedicastrology.com. And don't forget, go to my website and check out my new jewelry, especially right before the Christmas season. You're going to want to look at it, and that's galacticcenter.org. Thank you.